All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Megan Keeney Anderson. I am VP of Marketing at HubSpot, and I am here, very excited to be here with Sangram Vajre, who is CMO and co-founder of Terminus, and Kip Bodner, CMO of HubSpot. We are here today to talk about a very interesting topic, the question of whether account-based marketing, ABM, and inbound marketing can coexist.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a nice casual conversation, lots of different points and counterpoints here. But I would love to just kick it off really simply with a concise definition of each of these approaches to marketing. And can we start with you, Sangram? Could you give us a taste of what ABM is all about?
Totally. So thanks for organizing this. This is really cool. And I'm sitting in the HubSpot office. This feels like the most cool setup of all times. And hopefully everybody can hear us really well.
It's fine, just lots of orange. Right?
Lots of orange, no doubt. Really cool. So I think the best way, there's like two different ways to define ABM in my mind. One is ABM is a mindset, and I'd say that because it is so different, and it's in many ways it's more revolutionary in your thinking and the thought process, because all of a sudden you're moving from a lead-based conversation to an account-based conversation. And if you think about it, like sales always hired account executives. They never hired lead executives. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because they've always been focused on accounts as a single point of like, here's how we close. They don't close Johnny or Sangram or Gav. They actually close accounts. So I think it's more of a mindset shift where marketers can think about leads as well as now accounts from a sales and marketing alignment perspective. So it's a mindset. The second part, the other way I like to define it is it's almost like focused marketing. Right? Or focused marketing, if you will, because it is focused on a set of accounts that you want to really focus on, that are the best fit accounts for your company. Now, if you're in a business where you have hundreds of thousands of 10, 20,000 accounts that you market, maybe ABM is not the best thing for you to do or to get started with at that scale. But if it's like a small set of accounts that you really know your ideal customer profile and you really have messaging and the pain points that you really care about, high value and all that stuff, that's kind of like really focused. And this marketing part is that it's all about sales and marketing alignment. Like none of the stuff in ABM you could do by marketing doing their own campaign on this side and sales doing their own thing. They have to work together in order to drive significant focused revenue for the company.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, I mean, we talk about sales and marketing alignment on the inbound side of things too. How does that differ from inbound?
I think inbound is much more focused on the permission side of it, right? When we think about inbound marketing, we think about creating value. The sales are really secondary to building trust and creating value for people from the first touch point with the company, with the brand, clear through the buyer's journey. And I think ABM can help and support that. And if you think about traditional inbound channels, it's to build broader market awareness within your industry, right? So it's not just your decision makers, but it's your end users, it's the leadership of those companies and everything that you're trying to influence, largely through content of all formats and through key marketing channels like email marketing, search engine optimization, social media. And so I think that's where those things kind of come together, but they're also a little separate as well.
Nice. All right, so we've got our foundations, we've got our definitions. I know there's a lot that I want to dig into here. I want to tell everybody who's listening that we're going to do about 45 minutes of questions from me. I get to hog all the questions. And then I give you guys like 15 minutes of questions at the end.
Rapid fire.
And you can submit those questions on Twitter using the hashtag #InboundABM. So tweet any questions you have throughout this whole thing, and our producers here will kick them over to me through the magic of the internet, and I will ask them towards the end of our conversation. Sound good to everybody?
Sounds great.
Do this.
All right, perfect. And if you can't stay or want to rewatch this because it's going to be so good,
you're going to want to watch it again.
It is.
Spoiler alert. I don't even know yet, but I know.
I'm going to stop your first question right off the bat. It is being recorded, and you're going to be able to, we'll send it out over email and post it on the thank you page if you want to revisit it later on. Perfect. All right. So, Kip, I'm going to start off with you because we are very well known for content. Yeah. And I'm curious your thoughts on how content fits into account-based marketing. What stages of it does it enable? How do you think about that?
Yeah, and Sam and I have spent a bunch of time talking about this. The account-based marketing, I think, from our conversation, it's kind of further down the funnel. And so when you think about the content, there's kind of more traditional sales rep enablement content, and that comes in a lot of format case studies, whether it be text or video. It comes in like your whatever proposal documentation, support documentation your industry needs. But it's also a lot of customer journey, like customer mapping of who are the different decision makers, what's their own angle on this. And I think you and I have talked a bunch about this, that you need different content for somebody who's your primary decision maker versus somebody who might be doing a technical evaluation or a security evaluation, something like that. What would you add?
I think, agree 100%. I think the big misnomer, I guess, because it's called account-based marketing, everybody tries to put that into a demand generation kind of like fix. Like, well, if you're doing ABM, let's just do demand generation. And I think per our conversations that we have been having, it's like, you're absolutely right. The best thing that we've seen, like a lot of our customers do, is do pipeline velocity campaigns and upsell, cross-sell campaigns. Meaning, like, once you have done all this incredible amount of like work to get these leads, like get the permission for somebody.
You've done much of inbound marketing, like you've worked hard, they're here.
They're here, right? They've raised their hand. And a lot of organizations would just say, oh, go sales, work on those, right? And that's where like marketing can come in, like, no, sales, you work on it. But one, let's expand the audience. Let's get in front of all the people that are part of the decision-making process that's kind of overlooked by many marketing organizations. So that's where ABM can really help. It can get your message across all those people that are part of the decision-making process and help the salesperson not only focus on that one person they're selling to, but like help them kind of give air cover. And then the other part, which I'm so excited to think about, is the upsell, cross-sell, and those kind of campaigns. There are tons and tons of companies out there where like 20% of their customers bring 80% of the revenue, right? And in that case, like, why would you spend all of your time going after anybody but those like 20% and create adoption campaigns or upsell campaigns or cross-sell campaigns? We have examples after examples where somebody's trying to sell to GE, for example, and they have one business unit. There are like 50 other business units they could be selling for, right? So I think ABM has a very interesting role to play. But like as Kip said, I think it really demand generation is one part of marketing, and then ABM really helps you get into more pipeline and upsell, cross-sell, like customer marketing.
And it extends the role of marketing much further. Marketing really owns the whole buyer journey, and they have up to this point. And there's been customer marketing efforts, there's been sales and other aspects, but now there's kind of a new set of tools that those folks can implement in the ABM world. Is that your viewpoint on it?
Yeah, and I think the question on like content wise, I think this is where it really becomes very interesting, and that's why I think and we've been talking about like inbound and ABM. It's like 1 + 1 = 3 kind of thing. It's like, yes, we can get permission for all these people, but once you have that permission, once you know these hand raisers out there, you can essentially ungate a lot of the content, like the customer testimonial videos, like the case studies and all those things. And at that point, you're no longer measuring success in terms of like how many downloads you have. Now you're measuring success of how much time are they spending with you. Because now it's all about engagement for you.
And it's also like who the people are, right? When you think about inbound marketing, like really good inbound marketing starts with like clear buyer personas, like who you're focused on, who you're creating content for. Once you get further down the funnel, it's not just like a persona. You like, it's Sangram. It's like actually know more specifically who that person is and what they need, and you can make a personalized video for them or create something that is much more bespoke than you would maybe higher up in the funnel.
Right. So these companies that are doing both demand generation and permission-based marketing, inbound marketing, and they've got a real cross-sell, upsell opportunity, how should they be structuring their teams? What types of roles do they need? What types of talent?
We were talking about this. It's hard, right? Well, first of all, it's been exciting to see people actually hiring account-based marketer. Have you guys seen that? Like, it's actually a role, right? Congratulations. So that's like, this category actually exists. Like, so
what do those people do then?
So those people are now.
It's a magic question.
It's just like magic, right? And I think it's ABM is in its infancy. Like, kind of put it out there. Like, I don't think even we are doing it like perfectly. Like, it's like everybody's learning and kind of figuring this out. So it's very infancy, but there are a lot of really amazing companies who are really figuring it out, especially companies who have like very small set of accounts that drive most revenue. They are like the leaders in the space of doing ABM. The best way I've seen companies do that is somebody who has an account-based marketing role. They are actually responsible for the entire funnel.
Right.
They're not responsible for demand generation. So the worst thing we could do, or I've seen happen, is somebody says, hey, you're marketing operations, you're on marketing automation campaigns, here's go ahead and do ABM. That's where I've seen it fail. And what it actually I've seen successful is when they said, well, it's not a marketing automation campaign. It's not like another like MarTech campaign or anything. It's a strategy.
Yeah.
You take a step back. Sales, marketing, and executive team really need to come together and agree and understand the goals with it, because it's not about number of leads you're getting out of it. It's more of like, are these accounts engaging, so we can get our salespeople a kind of edge to kind of close those deals faster. So the role is to really understand the entire funnel. And that's really becomes a very tough job, because most marketers are either sitting in the demand generation side of the house, or like, a totally different customer marketing. Very few companies, and I know like your company does that really well, is really focusing on the entire funnel.
Yeah, and it's like it comes back to the whole debate of like, when you actually need somebody to do account-based marketing, like what your business situation actually is. And like, I think you and I have debated this offline a bunch, but it like, 'cause it turns out you have to be like really focused to actually be strategic and like help those people. So I'll like chime in here. It's like, how many companies should be in a campaign? If you had somebody who's like doing the work, like what's a great question. Look like?
So if somebody's, I'll give you like real scenarios that has happened, right? So
those are the best.
So there have been like companies that have come and said, hey, we want to do ABM. We love it. Exciting. It's amazing. You want to do this thing. And we're like, okay, great. We're excited for you too. Like, love it. This is like, here's the list of like 20,000 accounts we want to go after. And
so you want to spam the shit out of 20,000? Whoa. Is what you want to happen, right?
That's not where, like, this is not a high scale spamming like strategy. Like, let's just take a step back. It's like, well, great. Maybe 20,000 are the list of companies that you think are best fit right now, which is fine. But clearly, you as a business cannot close 20,000 accounts in like the next month and service all of them. And it's just not going to happen. Like, realistically, how many accounts do you really want to close every month? What's your pipeline looks like in revenue? And then you can, we want to close about 10 deals a month. Okay, great. So for 10 deals to close, how many accounts do you really need? What's your close rate and stuff like that? Okay, so now we're talking about like 50 to 100 accounts, right? So really amazing companies that we have seen do real good ABM, they have multiple campaigns based on tiers. So they will like separate it out and say, tier 1 are these high value accounts with like incredible size of the business. We know they're absolutely best fit. Let's do any and everything to win these deals.
Right.
That's where sales, marketing, success, executives, everybody gets on board, right? You think about like, I want to close Apple and, or, really big Nike. And that's when
I think that's the key thing, right? Like you have to have a business in which your average sale price is high.
Yeah.
It has to be, you have to be selling hundreds of thousands of dollars annual agreements, whether it be for goods or for services, right? If you're selling $1,000 a month thing, like there's no way that the time, the effort, the math, like ever works out for you, right?
I think that's where it becomes like tier 1 being like super high, but then I've seen tier 2 and tier 3, where what you do is tier 1, you go like super customized, like everything is thoughtful and there's one person.
That's like when you're selling Nike.
Right. Yeah. Totally. Second tier, and this is really fun play, I think, that games for sales and marketing can really focus on, is that tier 2 is like, these are great accounts. These are not extremely big, but they're like, good enough where it will have a decent amount of value. So that's like $40,000, $50,000 deals, right? Great. So we would not do everything at like a super customized level. We'll do something at scale, right? We would essentially go and do events. We'll invite them. We'll go do advertising to kind of get the message out there. We'll do certain things at scale. And then there's tier 3, which is even smaller. They're like, hey, look, if any of these accounts come in, that's fine. But this is not where we're going to spend most of our time. And it's really ends up becoming more of a time management.
Yeah, but it's like in 2 and 3, like how much of that is just like doing retargeting? Like, is that really like ABM? Like, where's the line of what's like real ABM and like what's kind of ABM?
Yeah, like
that would be my push.
And this is great. Like, and this is what we go through every single day. And I think tier 1 is really where ABM shines the best way. But tier 2 and tier 3 is where you can start getting some economics of scale, right? In general, and say that, at least we are doing some area cover. But if somebody wants to do it for 20,000 accounts, that's a no-no. That's like, there's no way. Yeah. So most campaigns that we have seen people run is like 50 to 100 accounts per campaign.
Yeah.
And they're like super strategic. And it could be like, in tier one, you could say that these accounts are all financial services companies. So the message that we're going to do and send to them are going to be very specific to their industry and all that stuff. So it's really comes down to personalization of the process.
Yeah. So Kip, let me actually flip that on you.
Yeah.
So let's say somebody comes to HubSpot and there's really 100 companies in the world that can buy their product.
Yeah.
And their big purchase value, there's just not a big pool.
Yeah.
Is inbound wrong for them at that point? Would you advise them to go a different route?
Well, so this comes to like the whole crux, one of the cruxes of this conversation, which is like the topic of permission.
Yeah.
Right. So there, I think I firmly believe, I think most of the folks here at HubSpot believe that like to build a great brand, to build an enduring company, you need to build trust with your prospective customers really early on. And best way to do that is to create value through like a permission-based relationship, right? So I think my argument here would be, inbound marketing, you need both ABM and inbound, even in that case, because what you want to do is there might be 100 companies. And so then there's 500 people or so that like you want to directly influence. But there's also a bunch of other people you want to influence, your investors, the broader community, things like that make inbound even like more impactful. And so you want to create the right content. And a lot of that content that you're going to use in your inbound marketing campaigns, you're going to tailor and customize and use it in your ABM, your sales reps are going to use it. So there's a lot of like economies of scale there, and you're getting that initial permission that are going to make your ABM relationships, your cross-sell, upsell relationships far more effective. Like you're just going to have so much more impact than you are like, I don't care what you're doing. If you're spamming like 500 people at 100 companies, even if you're trying to do it really smart, it's just not going to be as creative as it could be if you've really built that trust and reputation as a thought leader in your space. If you have like the right infrastructure and execution and content, like really, really educate them. And like, by the way, like what if you decide to like evolve your business and go into a new market or anything that is now way bigger? Like, well, then you have a base of effort and marketing to build off of, where if you're just so granularly focused, you just don't have that otherwise.
I think if you touched on something like really core to the whole thing is trust.
Totally.
Like if that company that you're trying to sell to don't trust you and look at you as spam, like I think we can just, if we had an audience here would say, raise your hand if you swear to God saying that we would never buy anything from this company. If I get another email from this company,
I've literally had a woman I don't know email me 28 times. 28 times for the sponsorship thing. And I have not opened any of these emails. I've not performed any action. So it's not like I have expressed even interest, let alone permission. And I still receive emails. And like, I will never, ever buy anything from this organization or this person ever.
And ever. The thing is, like, you have made that as a mental note, because you're a nice person, you're never going to say that to that person and like really get into it or put it on LinkedIn or anything like that.
Or even not if you're nice, it's just like not worth your effort, right? Like you got other things you want to do.
And I think that's where I think the sales organizations, right, like companies that have like massive sales organization where they're trying to go as many people and it's all about sales outbound. Where they're doing it all themselves and there's no oversight of like what quality of content is going out. And they're literally saying this email that we all get, do you have 5 minutes of your time? Can I get 10 minutes of your time? I want to learn about your business. Well, I don't want to tell you about my business. I got my own problems that I need to solve.
Regardless of like who you are and what your business situation is, and whether you're doing MBM or inbound or both, like brute force and selfishness never work. Like those two things are never going to do you any favors. And so like whatever strategies you adopt, steer away from just brute force, spam, sales, effort, and coming at that from an angle of just complete selfishness. Like, this is why you need to buy my product. This is why I need to hit my numbers. This is why I, you know?
I'll give you a great example of like a really cool strategy that I've seen like play out, and something that we are adopting at Terminus. So the first thing, once we identify the list of accounts, it's already for us, it's like we know a list of accounts we want to go after. So we're testing that every day. And we have something called as like the dream 500 accounts. So we have this in our back pocket. We know sales and marketing work together. They have listed that out. And we're taking 50 to 100 every month and actually doing a proactive outreach to it. So it starts literally with like we're doing some advertising to Terminus to kind of create that air cover and making sure that that account is aware. So no email, no nothing, like sales doesn't even touch it. And then the salesperson actually does a video of themselves using like VideoArt's Chrome extension of saying, hey, I'm Taylor, I'm on your website. I think you guys will really benefit from Terminus, and here's why. So they're putting your face to it. The message is super personalized to whoever they're talking to, and it talks about that company and that company's challenges and how we can help. We see, and then there's like a bunch of other, then there's a direct mail that we would send to them after like 2 emails and stuff. And after 5, if nothing has happened, if the video, the advertising, the email with that, and a direct mail hasn't worked, then we would kind of like, all right, like, we've done enough to kind of get attention. Maybe this is not the right time. But that impact, by the time they go to the 3rd step, is so effective. Because at that time, what that person has done is just shown that we care enough to create some personalized content for it. And it's just incredible.
Yeah.
So, but it's obviously not permission based.
No,
like, where do you draw the line on being spammy and like
28? It's like 28 emails. Like the line should have been drawn at like 5.
The line is a dot.
Yeah.
If you're a Friends fan, you get the reference of the line is a dot. But no, like that's like you just said, like, oh, well, you have these like 5 touches. Like, well, why 5 and not 3?
Yeah,
or why 5 and not 2, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
and we tested.
Because at the end of the day, you are looking at like what's working for you, not like what's working for them.
Exactly.
Like that'd be my pushback. It's like, where do you like know that that's right, and is that actually a good thing to do?
You are absolutely right, and I think what we see is that when in absence of like either the options are either we do a ton, like knowing these are the accounts you want to go after. The options are like we wait for them to come to us by all the stuff that we're putting out. And if we can, but we know this would be really good for them, to have a respectable, trustworthy outreach, right? And that's what we're really trying. It's like, hey, look, we're creating incredible content, but if we can get into that account and we know it's going to work for them, they fit in our ICP, it would be if you could just talk to them for 15 minutes, it'd be awesome. Like, how do we make sure that that conversation or that outreach, proactive outreach, is respectable and trustworthy? And that's kind of the philosophical outreach there. But it's definitely
I'm gonna throw on a little idea here for you and for people out here. It's like, I actually think there's like an augmented way to do this, which is I'll give you a good practical example of this. It's a guy named Chris. Chris lives in China. And he writes some awesome blog posts. And what he does is he does a bunch of research on companies, and he kind of basically tries to reverse engineer like their go-to-market, their business model, and that kind of stuff. He did one on HubSpot. And man, that article, right? Everybody at HubSpot read it. Like everybody, like on the HubSpot management team read it. Like I sent it to Megan. Like it was awesome. It was everywhere, right? And like to me, that's like permission-based, account-based marketing. A lot of the work that your sales team and everything is doing, it's like you make it really public. You make it public-facing, and so you're going to get that permission at those touch points that you can then follow up with the videos and everything that you were just talking about. But like you're also getting like all of that company's competitors, because they're looking at that too, right? Like if you think like HubSpot's competitors were looking at that, like they totally were. And so I think there's a way to create very, very focused account-based like content in an inbound marketing way that can actually elicit even more permission at the top that maybe can help that sequence be even like more effective. For example,
I love that article. Like we'll follow up on that. It sounds like a really cool thing.
All right, so I'm going to pause for a minute to check in with the audience, make sure you guys are doing all right, and know that the hashtag is inboundabm if you want to get those questions in there. And just to test it out, I need to draw attention to something very important. What these guys have been talking about is important, but even more important than that is the fact that Sangram has Terminus socks on.
I really do like the Terminus socks. Those are sweet.
Man, I should have got some.
I have HubSpot socks. I did not wear my HubSpot socks today, so I'm feeling self-conscious.
Better than HubSpot socks is the fact that Kip has a fox in his pocket right now.
It's a fox with a bow tie, actually.
I'm sorry, I'm corrected. It's a fox with a bow tie.
If you want to. It's a fun little fox. So who knew that putting like bow ties on forest creatures made them even more adorable? It's the greatest in the world. So what I want to know from the audience, just to test out this whole commentary thing, is let me know what you prefer. Is it the Terminus socks or the fox in the pocket? That's all. I'm asking. Forest creatures always win. Come on.
I mean,
it's a question, but it's not a question.
I'm asking the hard questions here.
Hard hitting from the beginning.
Exactly. Okay, great. So we've covered kind of the team structure. We've covered how content needs to adapt for each. We've covered some different ideas about where that line falls in terms of permission and how you spread. I'd love to hear your thoughts on measurement.
Yeah.
What are you actually, in an inbound world and in an account-based marketing world,
question.
what are the things that we should be looking to figure out, like, is this approach working?
Yep.
Well, I think what's interesting about this is that a lot of like your core like funnel metrics are the same. And there's like a bunch of people out there that say like the funnel's dead and they're kind of full of shit.
Yeah.
Like you have a model where you talk more about flipping
Yeah.
the funnel, but it's still a funnel and it's still,
Yeah.
still important. A lot of the metrics are the same.
Are they full of shit? Because the path to purchase is very different now. You were saying you pass emails around, you pass articles. It's not necessarily like 1, 2, 3.
Right. It's not linear.
So you guys are both funnel guys, but coming from different directions of the funnel.
It's a bow tie if you think about it.
It is a bow tie on a fox.
Yeah.
Which my phone is vibrating, so I know people are voting for the box right now. So thank you. Thank you.
What do you say to people who, and we will get back to the measurement question, but I think that's interesting, this idea of like, is the funnel the best? Is it relevant anymore?
Yeah, so I like my theory on all of this is that like the funnel was actually created for sales. It was pretty much a sales funnel that I think marketing ended up adopting and actually kind of changing it a little bit. And it kind of makes sense when you're doing a volume play where you need a tons and tons of top, and you're not. It's in many ways it's a process of filtering, because not every single person is ready to buy, and you're not like forcing anybody to buy. It's like really getting permission from thousands and thousands of people to be able to get in front of them. And when they're ready to buy and purchase and all that stuff, like they will look at you as the authority, the trusted leader, right? So that just makes sense from that perspective. From a reverse perspective, the reason like I came up with Flip My Funnel and we started kind of talking about it was because there are tons and tons of other organizations who don't have the ability to create such high volume content and high rich content in general, right? And at the same time, they have a very finite set of accounts that they want to go after. So I think it's really a business use case, right? And I'm a firm believer that every company needs inbound. Like there's no question in my mind, and we talked about this. I think every company needs inbound because you're gonna have a website and somebody's gonna come down and they're gonna ask for a demo and they're gonna download. Like so, inbound is it's not like inbound versus ABM. It's really every company needs inbound, like regardless of who they are. ABM may not be something that every company needs. ABM is for companies who actually have either moved on from the stage of like, well, we're not in the volume, we can't play this volume game. We have to be like, these are only 50 accounts I want to go after. ABM makes sense. Or to a point where, like as Kip mentioned, extending the whole marketing kind of influence on the entire life cycle of it. So customer marketing and all that stuff, like that's where like ABM really, really fits in.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care if your funnel looks like this or if your funnel looks like this. Like Sangram and I had breakfast this morning for some avocado toast and some muesli. We talked a lot about like the buyer's journey.
Yes.
And we talked about that. And to me, like the funnel, regardless of the shape, is just like it's a metric approximation for your buyer's journey.
Right.
And like, sure, is that buyer's journey like perfectly linear? No. But there's like aspects of that journey that like fall into each stage of like their buying cycle. And I think you need some type of standard way of looking at that. You need, if the argument's like, oh, it's not linear, and then like, oh great, so like every buyer has its own like journey and its own funnel, and it's not scalable, and as a marketer you can't make the right decisions. Like a funnel is like a diagnostic tool for a leader to help make like the right strategic decisions and like fix the right problems. It's not like something you should obsess over, right? But the thing you should obsess over is your buyer and your buyer's journey and what they actually need. But like a funnel is a really good way of diagnosing that. Like, oh, at this stage, like I'm clearly not delivering to my buyers what they actually need. And like these metrics are like showing me that that is actually the case, because it's hard to get that information actually from going and doing a bunch of surveying and everything of buyers, because you'll get a bunch of noise in that as well.
Yeah, so let me actually narrow down the analytics question, the metrics question, and ask you both, what is the thing that people aren't measuring today, either because they can't, the technology or the data isn't there, or because they don't know to measure it? that would make a difference in understanding that buyer's journey?
I'm going to serve one up for you right now.
Yeah.
I think it's pipeline velocity. I think that's like, and that's because the relationship between marketing and sales have been so disconnected. Like, this is a pet rock of yours, so I'll let you take it from there. But like,
Thank you.
I think we're in agreement on this.
1,000%. I think it hurts. Like, literally, it's painful. Like,
cuts you deep.
Yeah, it's really, really, like, I get tears around rolling down. But it's like when marketers work so hard to get those like incredible permission to kind of get in front of the right people, and marketing kind of just sending this and saying to sales, hey, over the fence, go work at it. And you, like, almost every CMO and company I've talked to would say that we have like, they have demand generation problem, but it's really a pipeline problem, right? It's the fact that if we can convert more of these people into deals, like, they would actually have to spend less on the top of the funnel, right? Just the mathematically just makes sense. So,
or hire more sales reps. You can do a bunch of different things to help the business grow, right?
Exactly.
This is awesome.
So I think if people started to actually pay attention and look at their velocity of deals and say that how long does it take for a deal to go from stage A to stage D, with that closed one, and they would see that they could do so many more things on the pipeline velocity. That might mean running more like targeted campaigns, like doing events to kind of go into a certain region and getting people together. And companies doing it ad hocly, but I think strategically, pipeline velocity should become like the flag that everybody should go behind, saying for the next 6 months, we're going to really start focusing on pipeline velocity and see if you can increase our conversion rate, because that will reduce the stress and effort and money that you have to spend on like just getting so much on the top.
Yeah, really, it always comes back to that like resource allocation to value comparison, and that one metric I think is really interesting in that it does align the marketing and the sales team almost by default to be going after the same thing.
The other metric, which I've been like kind of thinking through, and we kind of chatted briefly about, is that people are not measuring is time.
Tell me more.
So we kind of like take it philosophically, saying that anybody who's like, in a relationship, they know that the more amount of time you spend together, it shows the health of the relationship. Like the more you're trying to like avoid each other, you would know like, something is wrong, right? So time is such an interesting thing that people kind of take it for granted. But if you think about if your prospect is actually spending more time with you, which really supports the whole.
Do we know this is true though? Like, I'll give you the Canadian analogies.
Yeah.
Like, Canadians are super nice people. They're the nicest people in the world.
Yeah.
And they're gonna spend a lot of time with you, and then probably like very politely at the end tell you no, like more often than not.
I need to talk to more Canadians.
So no, it's like, but no, they're like cultural. They're like, and it's just a cultural example. They're like, as if you have a global business or something. Like in America, like like I might agree with you, but like once you expand beyond America, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's true or not.
No, so if you take it a little bit further and say that, well, when I think about time, I think about people spending more time with you. Doesn't necessarily mean as a person, like one-to-one. It's more of like on your website. So for example, if these accounts and the people are actually spending time on your website, on looking at your pricing page, looking at your customer testimonial videos, looking at all those things, that is a big indicator.
So I look at that as not time. I look at it as like interest and intent. Like at HubSpot, we have like the contact record, which is like the history of a person's interactions with us. Like, and you can look at that contact record and you can see like the depth and quality of interactions. And if you're a salesperson, you are having like either in the middle or trying to start a relationship with that person, that's exceptionally valuable, and like quantifying that to like services salespeople, super valuable. But it's like it's probably a little bit more about like intent or activity versus time actually, because of that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've been struggling with that, and this is something I'm toying around because I have downloaded ebooks and not read it.
Of course.
So when I think about
wait, I'm gonna make fun of you for a minute. So you go through all the effort to give your information, get the ebook, have it download on your.
I'm in a confession box right now. I'm telling you,
like we're in a circle of trust. Circle of trust.
Is it just for like when you buy a record because you want to have it on your shelf, or
like sometimes like this.
You look at your desktop and that ebook makes you feel good.
I don't know. Like sometimes I have done this, like and I'm shameful for it. But it's like I've done it where I've downloaded an ebook. In at that moment I was excited about it, but something happened and I forgot about it, and then I lost it. Right. And even if I downloaded it and it's like, let's say 50-page ebook. Like chance of me reading every single like letter N is going to be really, really like, stretching.
Yeah.
So it's really not the activity, right? Because based on somebody might be looking at me and say that, man, this guy really loves the ebook, right? But Kennedy, I didn't. I love the topic,
but it's the intent though. But it's like if you're coming to a company's pricing page,
yeah,
and you're looking at a wide variety of their products,
yeah,
that kind of thing, you're like,
it's an intent.
Well, yeah, they have or they haven't. I look at like the ebook stuff, for example, using your analogy. It's like, assume that nobody read the ebook. What it tells you is that they have intent, but then the ebook also tells you like what their problem might be.
Right.
Like that topic was likely a topic that you're like, even though you didn't read it, like that was a problem that persisted for some period of time for you. Yeah. And if somebody had the ability to solve that, then you'd be interested in chatting with them.
I would totally be, right? So I think I'm kind of starting to think about like, is it the notion of just the intent, or is it the notion of time?
Yeah.
And is it captured?
Yeah, there's a cross section there. It reminds me a lot of the best thing I read today, which was it's early, so there's other contenders out there. But
oh man,
there's a blog post on HubSpot's blog right now by Vedant Misra, which is all about how attention is really the new currency, and how technology in the future is going to be all about how you isolate when someone's attention, when that light turns on, so that you can be there in the moment. And I think that's that intersection of attention and the time that you commit. There's something really special there, and it does seem like most technology, most software now is headed towards helping you spot that and leverage it.
You won't be offended if you want to go to the HubSpot blog and read the article. Like you should totally, if you do take a second, vote for Team Fox before you go. But whatever,
well, I think it must be coming.
Second tab.
Second tab.
I think there's interesting things in there. There's AI component to it. There's a lot of components to it. And I think when I think about what the missing measurement is something in that area, which still to be debated.
Nice. Okay. All right. So I'm going to just check on our Twitter questions. Looks like we have some coming in. And I'll give you guys there's some good ones here. So I'm going to jump right to them.
Let's do it.
So first one comes from Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hey, hello. Stephanie. I won't ask you if you voted Fox or Sox, but Stephanie is asking for recommendations for getting buy-in from sales for an ABM strategy, because you really do need that for this.
Totally.
What are your thoughts on that?
ABM without sales is like, totally foolish.
You and I were talking, if you don't have good sales and marketing alignment, then put the ABM stuff on the back burner and work on that relationship first, right?
Huge. It's like put time into it, right? To go back to time, like that's the relation. If you don't have trust between sales and marketing, like a lot of companies would come and talk about like, hey, why do sales not follow up on all the leads that they get from marketing? Like most organizations have the challenges because sales do not trust that those leads actually are going to drive revenue, and they start working on their own thing. And it all comes down to trust, like have somebody gone through the process. So I think sales, there are campaigns that sales is running right now in isolation and marketing is running in isolation. And I think if you can bring that together, there's magic in it. There's excitement in it. It's sexy, right? Because at the end of the day, you actually can go for a happy hour drink with your sales counterpart, right? I mean, that's the dream that I feel that account-based marketing fulfills, where sales and marketing can actually, when a deal is closed, they both can high five, as opposed to looking at like who gets the credit. They both high five and say that's
and even bigger than that, like if you think that your like prospects and your customers don't feel that jerking between the handoff between sales and marketing, like you're fooling yourself. Like they absolutely do. So like at the bare minimum, do it for your prospect and your customers. And then like, because you're fixing that problem, you're going to get a ton of business value out of it yourself.
Okay. So you guys are both selling me on the value of this, but again, for Stephanie, when she gets off of this video, what does she tactically do? If she's like, I'm sure Stephanie, your sales team is very lovely, but let's assume that they're not. And what if they are stuck in their ways and they need to actually, how do you break into that first conversation?
Totally. I think it's a great question. And I think the way I've seen it work is by just doing pilot campaigns, right? So the first thing I'll ask Stephanie to do is like, look at the pipeline, like going back to the pipeline velocity and say, I want to work with like, Chris on the sales team, right?
One account
and say that, Chris, I see that you have these 10 accounts sitting in like stage B, right? So here's what I'm going to do with this. Like, I'm going to go ahead and create a campaign that based on these accounts, they're all in financial services or majority of them think, I'm going to create a campaign that will give you air cover for these accounts and we're going to find a way to send direct mail to these accounts, or we're going to do some high tech, high touch. We're going to do something together and see what happens, right? Are you in? Chances are he's going to like get out of his chair and
Extra
give you a big
attention,
hug.
extra focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what we're looking for, is like, you know, they just feel like, because I think most salespeople have a ton of empathy for sales, because, and I have my entire marketing team go and attend the sales meeting every single week on Monday, 9 a.m. And the whole point is that sales wakes up every single month starting from zero.
Mhm.
Marketing, on the other side, has the luxury to kind of design the campaigns and think about it in some ways. Like, I'm bashing myself a little bit here, but it's like sales, you know, we have to think about, like, sales wakes up every single day trying to, like, you know, hunt and kill and then, you know, put food on the table. So that empathy is really, really core to the whole process. So I think if Stephanie takes the time to look at the accounts for Chris in Salesforce and comes up with a campaign that will help Chris, chances are he's going to love you, even regardless of that campaign working or not. He's just going to love that you took the time and effort to do it.
Well, there's that, but if that works, you'll get other people on the team to follow,
Totally.
right? The great thing about sales is that they're practical people, and they want to follow along with things that are effective.
Absolutely. You get love from everybody. Everybody wants to be part of that. Like, can I do my, and that's when you're like, oh, now you're getting requests from sales for marketing's help.
Right, and then you got to be ready for it.
Yes.
Nice. All right, so Giovanni wants to know your thoughts on sending gifts. So he says that he can't stand receiving them unsolicited.
Yeah.
Pile up in his mailroom. He doesn't accept them. They feel contrived. Gifts or no? Where do you guys stand?
So I don't know about gifts. Like, so I don't look at gifts. Direct mail, like, is direct mail more like a gift? Like, you know, I kind of think like,
I think direct mail with an incentive would be considered a gift.
Right. Like,
If it was just
$50 gift card,
if it was just direct mail that was like explaining something or teaching something, I don't think it'd be a gift.
We're talking about like a box of nuts.
Yeah.
A coffee mug.
Coffee mug. Yeah.
Very classic, basic gifts.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like one thing I know, that in your office, if today you get a FedEx packet, chances are you're going to drop everything and open that FedEx package. Right or wrong?
I don't know.
You don't know? I would.
You're talking to someone who left like gifts in our mailroom for months.
Well, if it's on your desk.
The said package had Amazon Prime tape on it, then I probably open it.
I guess it does.
If not, like
I'm
probably not. Like it's interesting. It's like,
I would love actually to throw that one to the audience.
Also, I'll be also honest with you. I did open one this week. It was a book. From somebody I never heard of. I threw it away.
Oh.
Ooh,
so I'm not a fan. I threw everything away. Yeah.
Wow. So I think then this is.
I'm kind of with Giovanni.
Yeah.
I mean, you're Camp Giovanni.
Yeah. So I think it really depends upon, like, if that person has taken the time. Like, I know, like, for example, I'll give you a great example. Somebody on the sales team actually they were trying to sell them on the sales product. They actually got a book, but what the book had was actually a bunch of like what do you call those things? Tabs in it to kind of like different topics.
Post-its.
Thank you. Different post-its on different pages of the book saying that, hey, I want you to read this book, and here are the 7 areas.
Homework assignment.
Right. It's 7 areas based on the conversation we had. Like, these are the 7 areas that you talked about, and I feel like it really addresses those things. I just want you to send you this thing so you can take a look at it. And that salesperson was showing that, coming to the market and saying, this is awesome, and was putting on the desk and like almost highlighting as if like it's a trophy or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that person felt like cared for. And felt like this person on the other end didn't just send me something above.
I think to Giovanni's point, most gifts are unsolicited, not relevant, not contextual, not personalized, without permission, and all of those like terrible things. And most of those I don't think are effective.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Okay. So Tracy, I'm going to jump to you. So we have a small team. Can an ABM marketer realistically handle several other marketing responsibilities? So this goes back to the team structure. You say you've got 5 people on your team.
If you're living in small marketing land, it's a reality. They have to, right?
I think
what's other stuff with that skill set be inclined to be also be able to contribute towards?
It's a challenging question. Like, I'm just thinking about like actually what has happened with some of the customers. Like, what happens when your team is like, let's say 3 to 5 people, right? Is that you are thrown with like, hey, we need to rebuild the website, right? We need to do a brand project. Hey, nobody has created a testimonial video. We need case studies for our customers. Like, so you just get thrown into like all these things that are important, but are not going to directly help you focus on an ABM strategy to deliver results, right? To pilot it and see results. So the challenge really is to take a step back and just really outline like the goals for it. And I always say that ABM is a marathon, not a sprint. So if you're thinking, because when people do ebooks and like put a landing page and start promotion, they start getting leads, and there's that instant gratification of sorts, right?
Yeah.
In ABM, there's no instant gratification. Like it really takes a little bit of time and effort, and it's almost like you have to spend more time planning and strategizing than actually doing it. So it's a little bit like a mindset shift there, right? So for that, you need time to kind of do it effectively. Otherwise, you become, like as Skip mentioned, like with those accounts, like you would be a glorified spammer of like doing a bunch of things, or you really want to be like very special. Like you want to make the other person feel like you care about them. And those campaigns take time and effort. So what I worry about small teams is that, are they aligned with their goals, and do they have the flexibility for the next 2 to 3 months to really figure this thing out and make sure this program that can be repeatable? And once it is repeatable, the time would go down, but it needs to take time for that person to do a good job at it.
I'll follow on to that. Is it better in that case to focus in on a smaller number of accounts that you hyper personalize, or is it better to do more accounts but do a little bit less personalization, less?
I would just go like more hyper, because you need wins, early wins, right? To kind of show that this works. Mm-hmm. And because it's not going to happen like immediately, some of these things, and an expectation from most executive teams is like, hey, marketing is going to do, they're going to just deliver something, right? Either it's a lead, is it a video, is something, right? And what you're really saying with ABM is that I'm not going to deliver anything special to you. I'm actually going to deliver engagement for my sales team to close the deal.
Yeah.
It's such a different like conversation.
Well, I think a takeaway here for the audience that has been a theme of what you've talked about a lot is that, like, if you're going to err on anything, you're going to err on the side of like deep relevance and personalization to the market. So that means fewer people. If that means not doing other things, like whatever trade-offs you're going to make, that's the one thing that you want to make sure you have enough effort and focus behind. Is that right?
You nailed it. Like, I think it's really relevancy and personalization is like the currency in this whole thing. And if you take the time to do it, it really takes we all know that. And I feel like any project, any initiative, you just need a little bit of wind, and people just start seeing a little bit of light, and they like, oh, let's do all of it. And then you have to again back up, like, wait. We're not going to do 3 for 20,000 accounts. We're still going to go from 5 to 50 to, like, you really take that at a different level. But it takes time.
Yeah, and you don't have to go all in all at once.
You don't have to go all in.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have. So here's one more thing that I want to really like address. People have come and said, hey, you're going to abandon inbound strategy and we're going to do this. That's absolutely wrong. Like, as I said, inbound is for everybody. Everybody should be doing that. It's just going to happen, and you are going to do those things. So you can't say, I'm not going to, like, somebody needs to take care of the leads that come in. Somebody needs to follow on. Somebody needs to have a program, nurture, all that stuff. This is more of like something that you can pilot on the side, test it and see if it works, and then start bringing that up into your core program. But this is not the core program until it works. Yeah.
All right, everyone, the hashtag is inbound ABM. If you have more questions coming in, I've got one here from Simon. So Simon wants to know if you think there's a difference between ABM and strategic account management. Have you heard that phrase?
That's a great question. I think ABM has been there from the beginning of time since sales and marketing actually started working in B2B. So if you go talk to like big companies out there, they're like, yeah, that's strategic marketing. What are you talking about? Strategic account management. What
Just
are you
inventing a new term.
Yeah, like so there are, I think what's interesting right now is that there are more tools and technology out there that can help you do these things and actually measure success with it. So big accounts, if you go and talk to any companies that have been in the business of like 20% responsible for 80% of the revenue, 20 accounts responsible for 80% of revenue, they're already doing strategic like account management, right? But they never had any tools to support and do air cover and then kind of measure success and engagement and all that stuff. So the difference really is that that the marketing is now able to support a lot more of the sales process, as opposed to staying back and saying that sales, it's all you. So marketing can have a really huge influence on strategic account engagement than they ever had before. And that's really the most exciting part for me.
Nice. So from longstanding strategies to new technologies, I have a question for both of you from Jared, who wants to know about the aspect of artificial intelligence, AI, and any thoughts both of you have on how AI might influence both inbound and account-based marketing?
Yeah. Awesome question, Jared. Thank you. We had an announcement at HubSpot today that we bought a company called Chemby in the AI space, and AI it kind of addresses two of the things we talked about. AI helps you scale your human effort and presence, right? It helps you deliver more relevant, more personalized experience to your buyers throughout the funnel at scale, and that scale could be to a larger group of potential buyers, or with a lot of depth to a much smaller group of buyers. Like we've talked about both sides of that. And I think that's how you're going to see it manifest. And you're going to see it manifest in things like chatbots being able to like accurately and better address people's questions without the need for maybe a live chat representative or replacing other kind of like key use cases like that. You're going to see that if you're a salesperson, like AI is going to be a big tool that helps prioritizes what accounts you should reach out to, and all that activity and intent that you were talking about just a few minutes ago. AI is going to leverage that to make it way better for a marketer and a salesperson to have better alignment, to work on the right accounts and surface those and help segment those in a meaningful way. I think it's going to be a major shift in our market. I think that's how it's going to impact both inbound and ABM. What would you put on top of that?
I think it's a natural progression, evolution of it, right? Like I think about like this 5-year increments, like email marketing, 2000, it was awesome. Everybody got like 90% open rate. Like that was a great time, right? And then 5 years later, 2005, like, content marketing inbound became a thing because people are like, well, we can actually create super high value stuff that will get people to give permission, right? And then you fast forward 5 more years, 2010, sales started to get too many leads. And they said, well, whoa, marketing, you're sending me crap, right? And that's where predictive came about and said, you know what? We're going to take the time to identify the right leads. That was like the beginning of AI in many ways, of saying that we're going to like find out which leads have the highest propensity to buy, and only those are the leads that you should work on.
Right.
And then you fast forward 5 more years, 2015, ABM kind of got into it because they're like, well, beyond the lead, you also need to understand the account and all the influencers in it, right? So if I kind of want to thread this needle through this whole like evolution from email, content, inbound, predictive ABM, and AI, which is totally excited about it is to make the job easier for the marketer and sales to kind of take the right action. I think it's all related to that, because all of that is like, how do I just focus on the right people, engage with them on the right channel when they care? It's all about that, right? And AI really just kind of starts making those connections point, because there's so much data that's available right now for a marketer and salesperson. The problem is they just don't have time to kind of focus on all of it, curate it, and tell like, here's what you do with it. And AI and bots can actually do that.
So we're at the beginning of a new cycle.
A new cycle. Like every 5 years, I feel like it's like,
cycles are getting faster.
Faster.
Tons of disruption happening in the sales and marketing world.
Yeah.
It's a fun time to be doing both of those things.
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right. So Alessandra wants to know, hi, Alessandra. Who should be responsible for the content used in ABM campaigns? Is it the marketing side of the fence, the sales side, a mix?
Yeah. I mean, like, hi there. I think, content is definitely more or less should be created by marketing team. Like this.
Well, you want to use it through your whole funnel, right? Like the blog post example I use, right? Like you can use that content throughout the whole funnel. If it's created by sales, you're not going to do that. Or if it's created by some faction of your marketing team that's focused on one little part of the funnel, it's not going to do that. Right?
It's so different. But I'll add to that is I think this is where the problem happens between sales and marketing is like the classic example is of a video testimonial, right? Sales comes to you and say, hey, I need we need more customer testimonials telling that our product is great, it works, right? And you create that and you send it to them and they said, well, that's fine. And you look at the analytics, like how many people have actually watched it, used it, and you can see like the challenges is that not many people are using it. And you're like, wait a minute, that was a problem you told me, and now nobody's using it. Like, what's wrong? The wrong part there, the challenge that I see there is that there wasn't enough time put in there to kind of tell the salesperson and help them figure out the pain points. So this is something that we do right now at Terminus a lot more, which is that don't just ship a testimonial video to a sales team.
Right.
Actually tell them that, hey, this is a 7-minute testimonial video. At 1 minute and 10 seconds, this person talks about why they chose Terminus. at 3 minutes and 15 seconds, this person talks about what is the ROI of ABM. At like 6 minutes, they actually talk about why sales and marketing is actually really, really good. Now, guess what happens? One, they still are not going to listen to the whole video, but they have that script now and they have these data points. Now, imagine when they send that thing to a prospect and tells them that, hey, here's a video testimonial. Go and listen to this 6 minutes and 10 seconds. It really talks about sales and marketing alignment. Now that prospect feels like, oh, you actually took the time to listen, right? So it's all about just making sure that the content is not created just because somebody asked for it. The content is created with purpose and it's used with purpose.
There's usability layer to it. That's really what you guys are trying to do, is enable and make the usability of your content strong. Like we do the same thing.
Every day.
Everybody should be working on that. It's super important.
Nice. Here's a nice tactical one. Again, from Simon. I don't know if this is the same Simon or a different Simon, but how many stakeholders should you target in an account? So the CEV says there are about 6 to 8 buyers in a given account.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on how many you need before you feel like it's a sale?
Yeah. What do you think?
I think it depends on what you're selling, right? It's the classic "it depends" question. It's, if you are selling a high-end technical product that you need the CIO, security officer, finance, legal, then you probably might have 8.
Yep.
But if you're selling a service agreement for a very specific department, you might just need 2 or 3.
Right.
What do you think?
Totally depends on the size of the business and the complexity of product. So there are companies who have like 5 products, right? And so they're selling to 5 different like business units in that company. In that case, you are actually creating multiple, and there might be like 20 people part of the decision-making process.
Yeah.
So like you have to I think that's where the biggest gap in the opportunity from an ABM perspective I see is that most organizations are focused on that one person.
Yeah.
And there are like so many people part of the decision-making process. And the trick now is that how do we get into conversation in the water cooler and the management meeting that's happening behind the scenes that you're not privy to, but you have this champion that is trying to help you close the deal. But how do all of them know about you and your brand as much as or care about you and your brand as much as you do? And I think that's where it becomes very tricky. It's like the more people are aware of your brand in the company, it's only going to help you. So it's really important that happens.
How do you assess that though? I mean, if you really have only been dealing with one person, you have no idea the depth of that company.
Yeah.
Where do you begin to, do you ask the person who's your champion? How do you get a sense for?
It's a great question. Something that we're trying to do in our company, we believe that as a buyer, as a marketer. So you're selling an account-based marketing tool that allows you to do advertising at scale and all those things. So our target audience, the buyer, is a marketer. But we try to incent as much as we possibly can to get the salesperson on the call.
Yeah.
Because it's like, hey, this is more about alignment, because we know our most successful customers have sales and marketing like tied to the hip, and they believe in each other, and the salesperson is saying, hey, run more campaigns, here's my budget for you, right? Like that conversation is super important. So as early as possible in the sales process, we try to get the influencer, even though sales is not the buyer, the influencer in the process. And we create like, hey, we're going to be tailored. That salesperson doesn't have to be for an hour. They can be only for the first 15 minutes. So we'll make it as easy for the marketer to build that trust and make sure that they're able to bring the salesperson and show value to them. But that really creates a much stronger, because now the salesperson is excited and that person is asking marketing, hey, did we get that thing that I was on the call next week? So it accelerates the process.
Sure.
So getting influencers early and creating value for them, or creating content that they can push and send it over is super, super important.
All right, I'm going to leave it there because we are approaching the end of our time.
Fast, huh?
I know. I just want to say thank you so much to Sangram and to Kip for taking the time. And if you want to continue the discussion, we'd love it. I think there's just so much more we can cover here. And you can do so with the same hashtag. We'll keep that going. Hashtag #InboundABM on Twitter. And we will see you out on the Twitterverse.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye.